Yitian and Dylan Wang stood as two powerful forces in the world of C-drama, their names often whispered together not because of collaboration but competition. What began as harmless comparisons from fans slowly grew into something deeper, something neither of them could fully control. They were the faces of two different eras of charisma, both representing perfection yet carrying storms behind their calm exteriors. It all started when both were cast in major dramas around the same time. While Dylan's rise came with his unforgettable charm and unpredictable energy, Yitian represented precision, grace, and mystery. Fans began to notice how their projects always seemed to release side by side, creating invisible battles at the box office and in the hearts of viewers. Each time Dylan would trend, whose name would follow soon after. Each time whose smile captured the world, Dylan's fans would ignite social media to prove he still reigned supreme. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. Producers who had worked with both claimed there was mutual respect, but something about their encounters suggested otherwise. The first real spark came during a prestigious C-drama award night. Dylan walked in wearing his trademark confident smirk, while Hu, calm and composed, sat quietly waiting for his category to be announced. When Dylan won Best Actor, cameras caught a fleeting glance from Hu, unreadable, emotionless, yet heavy with meaning. That single look became the subject of endless online debates. Was it pride, disappointment, or quiet rivalry? Months later, fate placed them in the same studio building. They were scheduled for interviews for different shows, but rumors claimed they passed each other in the hallway without saying a word. The silence was loud enough to make the entire industry talk. Crew members described the air as tense, almost like a storm was waiting to break. When Yitian's next project became an overnight hit, fans began comparing his calm and elegant acting style to Dylan's fiery and impulsive performances. It was not just a difference in approach, it was a clash of worlds. While Dylan embodied raw emotion, Hu was calculated and poetic. Every award, every interview, every fan post became part of an invisible scoreboard neither of them ever asked for. Then came the day when both were rumored to be offered the same role in an international project. Insiders claimed Dylan's management pulled out first after realizing who had already been approached. Fans speculated endlessly, creating theories that Dylan refused to share the spotlight. Others said he simply wanted to avoid unnecessary drama. Whatever the truth was, it marked the beginning of quiet distance between the two actors who once shared the same dreams. But the most shocking moment came during a charity event in 2025. The organizers arranged for a surprise collaboration segment featuring several stars, and fate brought Dylan and Hu on stage together for the first time in years. The crowd erupted as they exchanged polite smiles, but their eyes told another story. Dylan's jaw was tight, his hand fidgeting slightly as Hu began to speak with the calm confidence he was known for. When Dylan finally took the mic, his tone was sharp yet measured, filled with an energy that seemed to pierce through the room. That short exchange turned into a viral storm. Fans slowed down every second of that video, analyzing each gesture, each breath, each glance. Some said Dylan looked hurt, others said Hu looked victorious. The internet couldn't decide, but what no one could deny was that the tension was real. Days later, Hu posted a reflective message about competition and personal growth, writing that sometimes silence speaks more than words. Within hours, Dylan shared a post of his own, a short video clip of a sunset with a caption that read, "Not every war is meant to be fought in public." Both posts trended for days, reigniting the speculation of an unspoken rivalry. Those close to them described the situation differently. According to a crew member from one of Dylan's upcoming dramas, both actors deeply respected each other but were victims of an audience that loved to choose sides. Still, the emotions they carried in public appearances told a story words never could. Their paths crossed again during a luxury brand event months later. This time, there was a small nod between them. No words, no smile, just an acknowledgement, as if time had softened the edges of whatever had once existed. Cameras caught it, and fans noticed that the air around them felt different. It wasn't rivalry anymore. It was quiet recognition, the kind that comes from understanding how far both had come. In that moment, both stars stood not as enemies but as two individuals shaped by fame, misunderstanding, and ambition. The world had painted them as rivals, but deep down, they were mirrors reflecting each other's journey, both scarred, both evolving, both driven by something larger than themselves. The story of Yitian and Dylan Wang was never truly about hate. It was about passion, identity, and survival in an industry that thrives on comparison. The real truth behind their so-called rivalry was not a battle, but a lesson in how two stars can burn brightly on their own paths without dimming the other. As the night of that event ended and the crowd dispersed, both men left the stage from opposite sides, their silhouettes fading into the same golden light. And maybe, just maybe, that was the quiet end of a rivalry the world created, but they had long outgrown. The studio lights had already dimmed when Yitian walked back into the empty rehearsal hall. The echoes of his footsteps filled the vast room like whispers from an unfinished story. The same space where he and Dylan Wang once shared laughter, improvisation, and late-night rehearsals now felt like a silent battlefield. Nothing had been said openly between them, yet the unspoken tension had become heavier than words. The night after the awards ceremony, the moment that started it all replayed endlessly in fans' minds. A subtle glance from Dylan that seemed to hold disappointment, and a tight smile from Yitian that could be mistaken for pride. Cameras caught it for just a second, but that second became the spark for countless theories. Some said Dylan felt betrayed, others believed who had outshone him intentionally. What no one knew was that both men carried secrets heavier than fame itself. Weeks later, the rumors deepened. An insider whispered that both actors had been offered the same international project, a rare collaboration that could have changed their careers forever. But only one name was announced in the final cast list: Dylan Wang. The headlines exploded overnight. Fans of both stars flooded the internet, defending, debating, and dissecting every detail. Yet, in the shadows, Yitian was silent. He made no public statement, no post, no reaction. But silence often speaks the loudest. Behind that silence was not anger, but something far more complicated: regret. Late one evening, Yitian sat on his balcony, scrolling through his old messages with Dylan. The last text between them was a simple one. "Let's make this our best project yet, brother." That was months before the casting fallout. The silence that followed had built an invisible wall neither of them dared to cross. Meanwhile, Dylan was filming overseas, his days filled with long shoots, interviews, and rehearsals, but his nights were haunted by memories. He often replayed their old scenes together from their breakout drama. The chemistry, the laughter, the brotherhood, it was all real once. But fame has a way of reshaping even the purest bonds. The more successful they became, the more distance grew between them. Not because they wanted it, but because the world around them demanded it. The press made it worse. Articles painted Dylan as the rising star and who as the one fading into the background. Yet, behind closed doors, Dylan admired Who's stillness, his grace, his quiet strength. During an interview, when asked about their rumored rivalry, Dylan smiled faintly and said, "We started this journey together, and maybe one day we'll finish it together too." That line sent waves through the internet. Some fans saw it as sarcasm, others as longing. But to those who truly understood the language of emotions, it was a cry for peace. A few weeks later, fate arranged something no one expected. Both actors were invited to the same charity gala, the first time they would be seen in the same room in over a year. Cameras surrounded them as they arrived, flashes blinding the air. Yitian entered first, his composure unshaken, his expression unreadable. Moments later, Dylan stepped in, his gaze scanning the crowd until it met Who's. For a long moment, the noise faded. The chatter dissolved. There they stood, two men bound by fame, fractured by silence, and reunited by chance. They did not speak immediately. Instead, it was a quiet nod, a half-smile, a wordless recognition that years of tension could not erase history. But backstage, away from the flashing lights, something incredible happened. Dylan approached first. His voice was low, sincere. "I never blamed you," he said, his eyes steady. Hu paused, unsure how to respond. You didn't need to, he finally whispered. I blamed myself. That conversation lasted only 5 minutes, yet it carried the weight of 5 years. No cameras captured it. No fans overheard it. But those who saw them return to the main hall afterward noticed something different, a calmness in their faces, a lightness in their presence. Later that night, the two of them stood on stage together, presenting an award side by side. The audience erupted, cheering the reunion they had silently prayed for. What they didn't know was that the moment had healed something deeper than anyone could imagine. In that instant, both men remembered why they started acting in the first place, not for fame, not for rivalry, but for the love of storytelling and the passion to make people feel. They realized that what once divided them was never real competition, but fear of losing something meaningful. When the event ended, Yitian stepped outside into the cool night air. Dylan followed, standing beside him under the city lights. We've changed, Dylan said quietly. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Hu replied. And for the first time in years, they both laughed. A new day began for both of them after that night. Dylan returned to filming with a lighter heart, and Hu took on a new role, one that reflected his own transformation. Their fans, once divided, began to unite again, sharing old clips, celebrating their growth, and reminding everyone that behind fame and speculation, they were just two people trying to find peace in the same world that once tore them apart. Weeks later, Dylan posted a photo on social media, 2 coffee cups on a table with no caption. Fans noticed the familiar bracelet on the other cup's holder. It was Yitian's. Within hours, the image went viral, sparking hope, joy, and tears across the internet. The rivalry was no longer the story. The story was reconciliation, growth, humanity. And perhaps, that was the real truth all along. Not rivalry, but respect. Not competition, but connection. The next time cameras caught them together, they smiled, genuinely, freely. The kind of smile that told the world, the story had ended, but the friendship had just begun. So in the end, the rivalry that once divided their names became the bridge that united their souls. And somewhere between silence and forgiveness, Yitian and Dylan Wang found their truth again. A truth that didn't need headlines. Only peace.